Okay, this might be a bit strange for you guys because half of the screen that you're currently watching is black. And why is that? Well, right here we have something quite remarkable, I would say, because right here we have the Philips EVNIA 42-inch gaming monitor. And this thing is outstanding, I do have to say. I mean, first, when I unboxed it, well, first of all, let's start from the beginning. First, when it arrived in a box, I was like, wow, I mean, after all, it is a 42-inch, and what was I expecting, right? Well, I mean, wow. And I know this kind of review with this kind of initial sentence from the introduction isn't what you might have been expecting, but this gaming monitor is really wow, and I have loads of things to say, of course, but at some point I'm really speechless. So most of the video you'll be just watching the screen instead of me, which is the whole point because you're here after all to check out the review of the 42-inch Philips EVNIA 4K OLED gaming monitor, and that makes sense. So let's start from the basics. The full code name Philips EVNIA 42M2N 8900. We have 4K OLED at 3840 x 2160 resolution with the 16:9 aspect ratio. We have a 106.06 ppi. The refresh rate is 120 Hz, but you can overclock it to 138 through DisplayPort, but we'll get to the ports later on. Now, the response time is 0.5 milliseconds, 0.1 milliseconds gray to gray, which is outstanding. We have two HDMI 2.1, which go up to 120 Hz, and we have DisplayPort 1.4 at 138 Hz, as already stated, overclocked. It also has a Type-C port that supports data, video, and power delivery up to 90 watts. We have normal 135 nits of brightness. The peak brightness is 450 nits, which is outstanding. It supports HDR10, covers 93.6% of the Adobe RGB color. DCI P3 is 98.5%, sRGB is 131.3 color gamut, and the NTSC is 110.3. It has 1.5 million to 1 typical contrast ratio with less than 2 delta E deviations on sRGB. We have some cool features as well. So we have 4-sided ultra-thin bezels, 3-sided ambi-glow lights, VESA mount and remote control. And when we're talking about the ports, we have single USB 3.2 generation 1 Type A port, single USB Type B upstream port, 4 USB Type A downstream ports, 10-watt stereo speakers, and then some main features like VESA certified clear MR, low blue mode without flickering, DTS sound, smart image for games, and 178 vertical and horizontal viewing angle. So taking all of these specifications into the account and features, of course, we can say that this monitor is actually really packed with loads of stuff, and this brings us to the next point, the design. So you have quite an outstanding design on the stand, and I do have to mention that because a couple of Philips monitors that I encountered, which were in let's say low tier segment, didn't have any possibilities to reroute the cables so they don't just dangle beneath the monitor. But this, it kind of does make it look quite nicer. But let's go first with the visuals. So we have pretty large stand, and the whole monitor is really heavy. So if you tend and if you want to swap it to another place, please call somebody to help you out, because it's not that it's that heavy, it's more that it's totally inconvenient to carry it around just because of the big screen and really thin design that you might damage the screen. So to protect that part, please ask somebody to carry it around for you. The design goes with a somewhat grayish color with blue dots or some sprinkled dots, and on one leg of the stand you have EVNIA inscribed inside with silver lettering, and on the other side you have a standard Philips logo. So all the logos are removed from the screen, which I really love, and this is outstanding because the screen is here just to enjoy it. That's great. Now at the back, the part of the stand where you basically are going to reroute the cables is actually just the right size to push the power cord through. And at the back you have two latches to reroute the cables through it. So this brings us to the point where the cable management is done properly here, and if you decide to place it on one position on your table, the cables are barely seen. The only thing is the stiffness of the cables and can you reroute them properly so they aren't seen from the bottom of the monitor. That's a completely different story, and it's all up to you and to your, well, let's say cable management, right? Now the stand is really sturdy and you don't have to worry about anything talking about the monitor in general. At the top we have some sort of a standoff that might or could be used as a headset hanger, which is quite handy actually. When you want to game, you just pull it out from the side and that's it. But apart from that, we have loads of other stuff as well. So you can tilt the screen, you can swivel it, which is outstanding, and you can raise it up and down, which really does kind of give an additional meaning to the monitor. Unfortunately, you can't rotate it, but then if you could, the stand would be much larger because of the diagonal, and it does need loads of space to rotate it, which doesn't make sense in this scenario. And yeah, basically that's it. As already stated, it supports VESA mount 100x100, and you get additional metal plate that is used for mounting it on the VESA mount, and you get all the screws that you need. So basically it's quite simple. You place the stand legs on the table, you place the big mount at the back and screw it from the bottom with your hand. You don't have to use a screwdriver. And finally, my advice is, while the monitor is still inside the box, place the stand and tie up those two screws to the stand so you can actually lift the monitor from the box. Otherwise, all the foam and everything that is inside, if you try to pull out the screen individually, it will tear. So this is the easiest and the best practice to unbox the monitor from the box, because after all it is a heavy monitor. Now the design is quite slim when we're talking about the screen, but at the back we have a bit of a bulkiness, first of all because of the Ambiglow, then we have the connections, and of course the OSD button, which is a multiple joystick that can be used as a power on button and can be used as an additional, I would say, navigation through the OSD menu. Now let's check out how it is to game and what would be, like, let's say, an optimal distance from this screen. Now my thoughts when it comes to viewing distance from the 4K 42-inch screen is, I would say that you would need either a deeper desk around 70 to 80 centimeters, which would be quite alright for using this monitor, so you don't have to, you know, move your head constantly left and right to check out everything that is happening on the screen. This will of course bring certain questions if you have that deep table. But then again, if you're quite used to it and if you lay back a bit on your chair, that will give you additional distance from the screen and enjoyment. So basically, if you're not sitting like I am right now and tending to be more on front, if you lay back a bit, you will get the viewing distance that is needed for this screen. The Ambiglow at the back is outstanding because it really does shine quite nicely. You can even manage the difference when we're talking about standard RGB spectrum. You can go with single lights, or you can adjust it towards screen colors that are currently on the screen to get more, well, Ambiglow actually. So that's why the name is, I think, well, my presumptions are. So when we're talking about gaming on this screen, at first I do have to say that it was something that you do need to get used to. First of all, if you're a standard gamer on 1440p or any other resolution, it really doesn't matter, but 24, 27 or even 32 inch, this is a much bigger screen, which Matt says it is, right? And you personally do need to get used to the large screen for that. Now, of course, with the color accuracy and the resolution being crystal clear and everything else, even though the PPI is a bit too small for this diagonal and the resolution, It's quite outstanding. And I mean, even watching movies on this one, I mean, after all, you do have a remote control, but you can't connect it to an actual antenna for your TV. It really brings out an outstanding enjoyment while watching or gaming anything that you desire. The only downside that I could come up with, because I was really searching for it, well, basically two downsides, but the other one is, let's put it this way, the other one is correlation to all the specifications, diagonal resolution, and everything that we have. So that negative part, that, let's say, downside, is the price, of course, because the price is 1,699 euros currently, right, when I was recording this video. So taking that into consideration, okay, but does the screen and all the specifications that it has kind of evaluate the price in that terms? It kind of does. It would be, of course, amazing if this screen was 1,000 or at least 1,200 euros, which would be outstanding for all of us who want to game on 4K 42-inch, right? Of course, logical. And I can't deny that the prices are always, we are looking always for the prices to be lower so we could be able to afford all this awesome tech. So without a doubt, don't get me wrong, but the price kind of covers everything. So in terms of specifications, features, and everything that you get with this, it's, let's say, sort of all right. The next, let's say, downside is if you don't have a fixed table, and this one isn't fixed, if you noticed from my past videos, is that this happens. So when I move the table, it starts to wobble, and this is because the stand at the back is fixed with only one, let's say, not a thin line, but you can see from the close-ups what I'm talking about. And this brings us to the shakiness of the screen. This can be solved with a properly fixed table, of course, or a VESA mount, which will bring us to some sort of a stability of the screen. But then again, we do have to mention some other things, because we have a huge screen that if, for instance, we don't have this kind of wobbliness, the screen might, well, not the actual screen, but something might happen to the screen while not being this flexible in terms of movement. So in all terms, I would say, and let's put it to a certain conclusion, this is a high-end display, without a doubt. A high-end gaming monitor for 4K OLED gaming experience with high refresh rate and low input lag, which is outstanding. And of course, the price tag is the one thing that will bring you to a question: is it worth it? Now, in my opinion, if you want to game on 138 Hz full maximum enjoyment in 4K, and you want to have it running at the maximum level, you're going to buy extreme components, of course. You're going to go with RTX 4080, 4090. You're going to go with a top tier processor. You're going to go with a top tier build in general. And that kind of sums it up to 4 to 5K euros. It's like buying a car. If you buy a Lambo and you don't have a possibility to change the tires eventually when they run out, what's the point of buying a Lambo, right? So if you're buying a top tier PC, you're going to buy a top tier monitor. And this is where it comes to. So for instance, the only downside that some of you guys that might consider not buying this monitor is the diagonal 42-inch and the possibility not to place it in your space. That's the only difference, and that's the only aspect that I'm seeing currently if you're gaming on a high-end PC, that you won't be going with this monitor. That's it. Personally, I would really like to have this one, and not because of the price tag, not because of the some extra specifications and features that does it have, but because of the diagonal, because of the 42-inch, because of the 4K resolution, because of the color accuracy, and it, if not used for gaming, it would be an outstanding screen for your MacBook, for instance, for my MacBook, for instance. Let's put it that way. So yeah, guys, I think it goes two ways, and you have to decide which is optional for you, because it kind of brings loads of questions in terms, not because of the quality and the features and everything else, because everything is there, everything is here, and the features cover up the price. So I think I went a bit too deep inside, but I really hope you understand what I'm getting at. And I think you understood the comparison with the Lambo and the tires and the fuel, let's put it, and the fuel as well. Why buy a Lambo if you can't fuel it up, right? So yeah, that's it. I'm really satisfied with Philips EVNIA 42-inch 4K OLED gaming monitor, which could be also used as a workstation monitor in terms of rendering, photo editing and everything else. As you heard, the color accuracy is outstanding, and it really is something that will bring joy to your face when you arrive in your office or your gaming setup and you see, wow, this screen is just remarkable. So in terms of that, I'll give it a PC Crazy Premium badge because it really does go into that segment, and with everything that I mentioned, it really does. Hope you liked the video. Hope you enjoyed the review of Philips EVNIA 42M2N8900, which I'm speechless. That's it. Guys, the links are in the description, so check it out, see if I might have missed some specs that you might be thinking about and all the other stuff. And finally, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button and click the notification bell as well. As you've seen so far, the videos are rolling constantly and it might get even more interesting. Can it be more interesting than Philips EVNIA? I don't know. Stay tuned and you might be surprised. Thanks for watching again. Hope to see you next time. Bye bye.